Hello, everyone. My name is Julie Rubio, and my pronouns are her, she. Um, and I am the president of Women in Film San Francisco Bay Area. Women in Film San Francisco Bay Area is a volunteer nonprofit organization that actively provides networking, education, social opportunities for over 6,000 women in film, television, digital media makers in the San Francisco Bay Area. And our mission, we are here to empower, promote, celebrate women's creative work, and to provide critical support on creative works. Women in Film San Francisco Bay Area seeks to deliver useful solutions and build a strong community and further the craft for women working in all levels of digital media. And I want to start by recognizing while that we are in cyberspace, we're currently, for those of you in Oakland, Berkeley, Piedmont, Emeryville, and Albany, California, we are in Lishan Ohlone territory. Visit the link in the chat to identify your indigenous land. And I want to say a thank you to our board members and tonight's organizers, Amy Zinn, Carol Hall, Neil Unirdrum, Diane Walsh, Christina McKinley, and Kelly White, and Nicole Carlson. Aloha, good evening to you both, Yvette and Rasha. It's really, truly a pleasure to have you guys join us tonight. And I've been really excited about this. It's just a really special night for me, and because of our Hawaii connection and also our San Francisco connection. And we couldn't be more delighted to have you here to share with us your story. Before we dive in, we'd like to extend our heartfelt condolences to the loss of your cherished mother, to honor her memory and the love you both shared with her. We'd like to begin tonight's event by showing just a brief clip of the two of you at the premiere of I Am the Night. Christina, can you go ahead and show that for us, please?
I mean, how incredible is this moment for you all, and to live this for your mother and to be able to see it all come to fruition? Because you even said earlier that this is something that was her life's work.
Yeah. Again, the word we use all the time is surreal. It's surreal. But, you know, both of Rasha and I, we never doubted our mother, ever. She was one who she knew she was going to make this happen one day, and the moment that she met Patty Jenkins, she knew it was going to happen 100%. So to see it come to light and magnificent, there are no words.
And what a powerhouse dynamic of your mom with Patty Jenkins and everything that she's done, and, you know, forging the way for female directors and really kind of bringing that to the forefront and making that the fight, and to see this come to fruition, like, what an incredible honor.
Well, we've said this several times, and we were saying it when Mom was going through breast cancer before she passed. Like, Mom was always our Wonder Woman.
Truly.
And Patty was Mom's Wonder Woman and our Wonder Woman, and we've fallen so in love with Patty and Sam and Chris and India and everyone, but they've really become family for us, and it couldn't have happened any other way.
No. Our mother believed in divine timing, and this is truly divine timing.
Have you all watched an episode? Are you happy with the way that it turned out? Is it bringing to life like what you envisioned from the paper to now?
Happy's not even the word.
Yeah,
that's an understatement. yeah. It was so proud, and we were on set so much. So we saw it in person, but it's even more magical. I mean, it's on film.
It's on film, and to watch Patty Jenkins work, it's like she loves what she does, and you can see it in every aspect, and the people that she surrounds herself with. I mean, she's amazing.
And it started with Patty, and then Vic Mahoney and Carl Franklin. But
exactly.
it just magic. Pure magic. And every cast member, every crew member, our Teamsters were Hawaiian, and we're like, of course you are, because that's where we're from. And I'm like, this Mom.
You could feel the energy, you could feel Mom's magic.
I feel it
again,
now.
The fairy
right
dust.
now.
I mean, I can feel the goosebumps. It's like our mother that's who she was. You know, she used to say, Magic is alive and afoot, and that's what's happening right now.
So thank you for being a part of it.
Of course, you guys are making me tear up. You all are so magical yourselves and such a dynamic duo, and your energy is so wonderful. So congratulations on this. That's all you can say. So thank you. Yes, of course. You all are amazing. Congrats.
I love that interview. We're so sweet.
Yeah. Oh, Julie, you're muted, love.
That's just
There he is.
so touching, and that was truly a beautiful moment. And you know, so many of us have had difficulty and lost family members in the last, you know, few years. And you know, both of you possess such eloquence when you're speaking and expressing yourself. So that was really nice. I'm happy we got to kind of get through it without it being too janky. We're grateful that you could share, if you could share some more about your remarkable mother. And if you could please just tell us about, you know, her personality and what inspired her to write the book of her life, and I think we're all, you know, very interested in learning how she managed to survive all of this, but also went on to accomplish so much of this incredible life that she lived, and with such grace.
You know, I was telling Rasha earlier, this is really a full circle moment for us, because our mom, you know, we lived in Los Angeles and she was a member of Women in Film in LA. And yes. And it was very important to her, and we would go to luncheons with her. We'd go to screens. So, you know, so to be here and to have you, you know, at the helm of it, Julie, and to have all you amazing women here, it's pretty special. It's very special. Our mother she was a go-getter. She knew from the time, you know, she was 8 years old that she had an incredible story to tell, and she never stopped, you know, never, ever stopped. She believed in it so much that she manifested, and that is the word you'll hear us use a lot with my mom when you ask us, how did she do this? Well, she manifested her dreams every single day. And, you know, our mother was a very faith-driven woman. So she believed that she absolutely had guardian angels that were directing her on her journey. She wanted to make the world a better place. And that is truly who she was at the core of her spirit. And that is what she did. And that is what she left for Rasha and I to carry on.
Yeah, and she, you know, we often say, especially when we're interviewed, that the only difference that, you know, there would be if our mom were still alive is she'd be right here in the middle between the two of us, because she always wanted it to be the three of us, because as sisters, obviously we look a little different. So, you know, like, she loved the fact that, you know, she had this beautiful biracial daughter when, you know, she was just 15 years old. And then 11 years later had blonde hair, blue-eyed me. And, you know, we represented the colors of love to our mom. And our mom was never white enough, never Black enough, because she was raised thinking she was biracial. And like Yvette said, like, when she was 8 years old, she knew she had a story to tell. And that was even before she found out about her family's connection to Elizabeth Short, also known as the Black Dahlia. And our mom always knew, you know, she was born in 1951 in Reno, Nevada, and she knew she was adopted, but she knew that she was different because of so many factors.
Yeah,
but
quite a few factors, yeah.
And, you know, we were raised in Honolulu, Hawaii. Like, Yvette was, you know, born in Reno. They went from Reno to San Diego, then to Honolulu, and then we ended up in Los Angeles and all these different places. But who mom was to her core was this beautiful, bright, shining light of hope,
Mhm.
even though she had so much darkness in her life, and she wanted us along on that ride with her.
Yeah, and she, she really educated herself, and she kept those people that she met that were helpers, like she kept them near and dear. So when we say that our mother had a rough life, growing up, yes, she absolutely did. But there was core people that she was rooted in love. And she always took the good from every situation, from Reno, Nevada. I can even say from the time she was born here as a child, there was just something very special about my mother. From the time she went to Reno, living with a shoe shine man and the maid, her adopted family, Homer and Jimmy Lee, she loved them with all of her heart and soul. And then going to Hawaii and finding out, all the things that she found out, that she wasn't biracial, and the whole, George Hodel and all of that. Even with that darkness, she still pulled all of the good out of that. And that was always her purpose. That was always her purpose,
Yeah.
And even when she, you know, would talk to others, and it baffles me, because that's what Rasha and I do now,
As
even
podcasters.
as podcasters, because mom, as much as she would tell you about her story, she always wanted to hear about yours. And I think that, that's what Rasha and I do now. And we've done it really our whole lives as well.
Yeah, I was going to say that you guys definitely bring a lot of light into a room. Every time I'm around you, I feel that energy, and that's it's super healing for others. What was the process of getting the book published for her? I mean, I know you've said it was her life's work, but it was it difficult for her? Was it easy for her to get?
Ooh.
Nothing was easy.
Mm-mm.
Nothing was easy.
So many
Nothing.
women here tonight are writers, and they're trying to get their story told. So, I mean, what was that process like?
I mean, mom, she tried to get a big publishing company, but it didn't happen.
She only self-published.
So she self-published. She had another friend of hers who was a writer as well that helped her. But the one thing about mom, and this is a great piece of advice for anyone who was a writer, mom documented everything. She wrote in journals. She had, like on Root of Evil that you hear, she tape recorded interviews with her and her mom, or, Rasha and I. She was always diligent about remembering what was happening at that moment. But she, she found a way. Like I said, she found the people that could help her, that believed in her story just as much as she did. And that's how she, she self-published.
Yeah,
So
that's great. I mean, that's like taking your destiny. I often say this to people, no one's going to give you anything in this life. You have to go and get it. You have to go and take it, or not take it, but like you're saying, have people around you that are
Mhm.
good, and that you can, they can help cultivate it for you. Can you share your story, your family's connection to the Black Dahlia murder case? That's, everybody's always asking that question. I know.
Oh, yeah, it's okay. And I think Yvette and I have both made peace with that. It's a part of our story, no matter what. And we always want to shine a light that she wasn't the Black Dahlia. She was Elizabeth Short, and she was a young woman in Hollywood who was horrifically murdered. And how our family connects to that is, when our mom found her biological mother in Honolulu, Hawaii in the 1970s, she, like Yvette said, not only that day found out that she was not biracial, because she was told, and it even said on her birth certificate, that she wasn't biracial. And her birth mother, Tamar Hodel, shared with her not only the fact of her race, but she said, oh, and BTW, George Hodel is possibly your father. because there was an incestuous relationship, and and we'll get into that later because we know a lot more about that today, which we'll tell you more about that later, of course. But she also said that he was the prime suspect in the murder of Elizabeth Short back in the 1940s. So our mom's life was completely blown away at that moment.
Shattered. Yeah.
And her identity, her everything. And, she was always told by her adoptive mama, Jimmy Lee, that, she came from money. She was from a wealthy family.
Never change your name, always keep the name Hodel.
And then she went down this entire path. So you have to imagine, right? This is 1970s, and it was actually on Lanikai Beach on the island of Oahu. And she had Yvette. I wasn't born yet.
I was 5 years old, tagging along with her on this journey, of discovery. So, to be in this beautiful paradise, coming from Reno, Nevada, right, to paradise, and then to meet your real mother, and then to hear the whole truth. Mom wasn't really ready for that. I don't think you ever are quite ready for, the unknown truth, so to speak, and especially all this, So it was life-changing to her. And, for a moment she was like, I just want to go back to Reno. I just want to go back to, my people in Reno, because I just don't know how to take this, But again, like we talked about earlier, Mom kept, educating herself and finding out more about Tamar and the boys. And then she wanted to go back. She eventually wanted to go back. She always wanted to confront the truth, and take the goodness out of that, of what she was learning, and how can she share it with the world to pay it forward in a different way.
And she really wanted to, once she realized Elizabeth's story, yes, she was always mission driven from the time she was 8 to tell her story, but she also wanted justice for Elizabeth. And, that's kind of like what we're doing now, right? Like, yes, we are well known because we're related to this horrible person, but first and foremost, we're Fana Hodel's daughters. But she wanted to shine a light on her and bring her justice, because it's still the most notorious unsolved murder mystery in American history.
Yeah. I mean, my gosh, and how brave of her to, a lot of us would just run the other direction. So
yes,
really so brave of her.
Yeah.
I want to ask, how did the idea for the TV series I Am the Night come about? How was it being on the set for you? But first we could show that we want to show the trailer. We don't know, maybe now that Christina has fixed that sound, it might work.
Okay.
So we're going to try and show that trailer. If it doesn't work, we'll just go right back into
no problem. Okay,
question.
Perfect.
Look to me, my teachers, strangers. I found out I was adopted. That's why I left. I guess I just want to know where I come from, who I am.
Yeah, you the one who wrote that article for the Los Angeles Examiner? I got some more information about that trial that you might be interested in.
So you got a case. It's 10, 15 years old. And this girl knows all about it.
Listen there, I just want to talk to you for a second.
I found her. And that's not all. You remember that murder case? There's new information. You gotta remember where you are, who runs this city. Some stories don't want to be told. stories will eat you alive.
I'm nobody.
You sure about that?
Things been going on. Bad things.
This city did it for you.
I can feel it all over the place. It's like a buzz. Find her.
You want to know something? I'll tell you something. I'm gonna find out everything. And I don't care what it breaks.
Okay. Wow. Oh my God.
Right?
Oh my God. Okay.
Holy cow.
Can you go back to off of share screen? Christina, I can barely talk. Wow. I
Oh my goodness.
goosebumps all over a chicken skin. Like that is nuts. And I watched this and I don't like scary things. And I was surprised how
We
well
don't either, Julie.
so surprised how well done it was. So I just want to ask how, so many of our filmmakers are here tonight and they want to know how can I get, how do I make a series that gets in front of Patty Jenkins that goes with this with Chris Pines? How was it, for you guys? How did I Am the Night even happen upon becoming this series? And how was it being on set?
Okay, I'm gonna start from the beginning. So you asked me a question, about her book, right? And I told you a little bit about that, how she self-published. Mom was one who pounded the pavement to get her story in front of the right people. We lived in LA for many, many, many years. My mom met every director, every screenwriter, everyone possible, trying to pitch her story, off of her book. She had people like Kevin Costner, she had Oprah, she had all type of people who, were interested in. She, her and her business partner, who was our Auntie Lillian, who's a Japanese woman who lived in Hawaii. They became best of friends and business partners. And they got a young Korean man who was a business partner of our Auntie Lillian to invest $10 million to do the first movie. The first movie was called Pretty Hattie's Baby, and it was stopped 2 days short. There were 2 days left of exterior filming left, and they ran out of money.
It was 1991.
1991. Sean Ferrer was one of the producers on it. Paul Alberghetti. It's a long story.
Alfre Woodard.
Alfre Woodard was the main star. Jill Clayburgh was in it. Tess Harper. Allison Elliott.
Charles Dutton. Never came out.
Yvonne Pissarro was the director. He has since passed. He never stopped pounding the pavement until one day she met Patty Jenkins.
Patty Badass Jenkins.
Patty Badass Jenkins. And you have to understand, for us, our whole lives, we have heard about, it's going to happen now. It's going to happen now. It's going to be this person. It's going to be Oprah. It's going to be, and we never doubted, but there's a lot of people who, when you have a project that is so near and dear to you and you are dead set on it, my advice, never give up, because there are those people that will roll their eyes and be like, oh my God, you're talking about this again. Never give up. That is what our mom taught us. That is who she was. She met Patty Jenkins. She told Patty, the story of all the things that have happened. Patty was just, first of all, she was blown away by the story and by my mom. And Patty wanted to do the story, but
so that was 2010 when they met. Okay, 2010, and then she had a deal, like she had an option with mom. Patty had an option with mom, and she was like, she hadn't done Wonder Woman yet, right? She had done Monster, which is an incredible film if you haven't seen it, starring Charlize Theron, but award-winning film, and so it was like coming up. Okay. And then Patty came to mom and said, Fauna, I love you so much. I want to do this, but I have to go do Wonder Woman. I'm going to be gone for 2 years. I'm going to release you from the contract so that you can go somewhere else, because I want you, this story has to be told. I just can't do it right now. And mom is like, I will wait for you.
And Patty was pregnant at the time
With Asa.
She was like, she was doing Wonder Woman. It was just going to be too much, and she thought it was just going to be too dark, too heavy, and mom never cashed that check. It was $100
For the
option to hold. I think it was twice she did. She never cashed that check. She said, I am waiting for Patty. I know she is the one to do this story. And, lo and behold, it was 2017.
On the set of Wonder Woman, she was talking to her star and now dear friend, and they're actually co-producers on everything now, Mr. Chris Pine, the most sexy, beautiful man on the planet. And I'm a lesbian, so I'm allowed to say that.
He's fine.
He is so fine, but he's beautiful from the inside out. And he, Patty was just sharing this crazy story with her friend Chris, and Chris is like, Patty, you have to do that. I have to be a part of it. I can't play George Hodel because he sounds crazy, but you have to figure out how to get me in this story, and you have to tell Fauna's story. And so it was the two of them, and
Patty's husband, Sam Sheridan.
Yes, but
wrote it.
mom was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2017, and so she I'm sorry, I'm getting a little emotional about it. But she worked with Sam and Patty for the first year, so she gave her blessing. She worked on the script for the pilot. She knew the direction that the show was going to go, and she made sure that everything was lined up for Yvette and I to take over, even though she said she was never going anywhere.
Like, I'm living till I'm 99.
Yeah, and excuse me, I misspoke. She was actually diagnosed April 2016 and passed in September of 2017. So, and we moved her from Honolulu to just outside of Portland, Oregon, where my wife and I live, and Yvette and her husband, Gino, are here in San Francisco. And, so the whole time we're trying to get her through breast cancer, because our mom's like, I gotta be on set with Chris Pine. And she knew Chris Pine was starring in it. She knew Patty was directing it.
Chris had sent her a huge bouquet, of roses, saying, I can't wait to tell your story. And, mom was she was over the moon because, all of her hard work, had paid off, because, she never gave up.
And wonderful. And so she passed, even though literally we had her, she FaceTimed with Patty and her husband, Sam, who was the showrunner and writer of the show, and their beautiful son, Asa, just a few days before she passed away. She's like, I'm not going anywhere. She's like, I'm going to live till I'm 99. And, sadly she did not, but she knew that everything was in motion. And she didn't know that the beautiful India Isley was cast as her, who we have fallen madly in love with inside and out.
And that same light,
essence,
that same spirit, that same essence as our mom does.
Great. She knew it was happening. And 6 weeks after we lost her, we were on set at the Warner Brothers studio lot with Chris and Patty, and our lives have forever changed in every which way.
Every way possible.
But it was surreal and amazing, and we were invited to be there. We were there for so much of the filming, and we're a part of the creative process, and it became a true family. Like we said in the first clip, we were the I am the night Ohana.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that you got to be there in your mother's shoes, so to speak.
Yes.
And represent and, be, her representation,
Yeah, forever.
And she was there.
She absolutely
some sort of
was
way.
there.
I honestly think that. Can you tell us more about your partnership with Cadence 13 and TNT for the podcast Root of Evil? How did you decide to go that direction? And
We did it.
We did it.
how did you get that deal?
We were on the set of I Am the Night, and one day
On
Sam
reshoots.
on reshoots, right? We were in LA on reshoots, and Sam, Patty's husband, said, "Hey, would you guys be interested in doing a podcast?" And we were like, "Sure, but what's a podcast?" Because we're like, "Yeah, of course we're going to do anything for you guys. We love you, but yeah, what is a podcast?" And so he said, "Well, there's this guy named Zach Levitt, and he's going to be contacting you." And
From Cadence
from
13.
Cadence 13, and we're like, "Okay." So Zach calls us. I'll never forget. I was driving to work at the time, heading to West Coast Leather, and I had pulled over, and Zach called both of us. And from the moment he said hello till the end of the conversation, like, he is our brother from another mother. Like, he knew exactly how to talk to us, and he cradled us, like,
Held our hands the whole
held our
way.
hands the whole way. Because this, I Am the Night was Patty's baby, Patty and Chris and Sam's baby. Root of Evil was Zach's creative baby, so Zach is an award-winning documentarian who came from the basketball realm, but his detail from open to beginning, with the sound, with the music, with both of us, the sounds, yeah. And when we did the interview, when we met him in person, like, the conversation was great, but when we met him in person, he was like, "Oh my God, you both have great voices. Like, I don't want either one of you to be mad. I don't know who I'm going to choose
As the host.
But by the end of it, he was like, I have to have both of
We're a
you,
package deal now, forever.
Yeah.
Like, Yvette and Rasha.com.
Yeah.
Thank God, because it doesn't always work out quite that way, does it?
And I do want to say, so Root of Evil, because I Am the Night was loosely based on Mom's autobiography, One Day She'll Darken. So Chris Pine's character is truly made up out of the beautiful mind of Sam Sheridan, but they wanted to do the companion podcast. TNT wanted it because they knew the true story was almost even crazier than, than I Am the Night, because there's so many different spider webs and facets that it can go out into, and hence why our life story will never be finished being told, because we're going to keep telling it in every different aspect. But our mom, like Yvette said, documented everything. So we had audio dating back to when she was in her teens, and she was born in 1951. So that's why when you listen to this 8-episode limited series, it's truly a documentary. And that's how you know that Zach Levitt came from television. He did all the 30 for 30 for NBA, Emmy award-winning documentarian. And this was his first big podcast. And this really launched and changed the true crime genre and the true crime game. Because yes, it's in the true crime genre, but it's not.
But it's really not.
Yeah, but it's not. Would you suggest that if someone's trying to get their story, their feature made, and they can't quite, and they're thinking, "Oh, I got to make a trailer, but it's going to cost," would you suggest a podcast?
Yes,
absolutely. I mean,
absolutely. Any medium.
That's what I was going to say. Like, try it all. The bottom line is you just have to find new ways to get your story out there, for someone to pay attention. Like, never stop believing is how our mom lived her life, ever.
Yes, you can't give up. You can't let that voice in your head tell you that you got to stop, because you got to tell it, "Shh, quiet, please."
Yeah. I mean, and there are days, of course, you get down, everybody has that, but you just have to pick yourself back up and look for those helpers. We can never say that enough. Look for those helpers that are going to help lift you and elevate you to that next level.
Like, that's why she was in Women in Film in LA when we were living there, because we moved there 99, so like she was just like, and then she, joined the Beverly Hills Commerce, and then she, that's how she met her attorney, who's now our entertainment attorney and takes care of everything for us. Like, it's all about those connections with people. And she met a few crazies, as everyone does, that were there for the wrong reasons. But when you meet with like-minded, beautiful souls and those helpers, and you lift one another up, which is what you're all doing here, like that is what the dream is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, what a better way to live life if everybody could be a little bit more aloha spirit, so to speak.
Yeah.
What inspired the creation of your new podcast, Facing Evil? And how do your unique backgrounds contribute to your work on Facing Evil? And what do you hope to achieve?
Okay, so what had happened was is so Eye of the Night came out in 2019. 2020 is when we were nominated for the iHeartRadio Podcast Awards for True Crime Podcast of the Year, right? So right before the world shut down in January 2020, we are on the red carpet with our brother from another mother, Zach Levitt, and we did not win that night. We were in LA, we're at the old Johnny Carson Theater in Burbank. We didn't take it home, but that day we made a connection on the red carpet with Donald Albright and Payne Lindsay. And they are the co-owners and co-creators of Tenderfoot TV, which is another amazing podcast company. And they actually started in television. They did music, but they did Up and Vanish. They have all different types or amazing shows. High Strange, Payne Lindsay is out right now. So many. But
so
Up
many.
and Vanish.
MLK takes like
MLK
so many.
Yes. And they took Up and Vanished, and they ended up taking that to TV, and they're like, no, podcasting, we want to bring it back, and they're changing the game. And Zach introduced us. Donald saw something in Yvette and I, and we connected on social media, and Donald approached us. He's like, you two are a brand. You two need to do something together. And so
that's what happened. It's really an interesting story. And I always like to look at things on a deeper level. That particular night, when we were there at the podcast awards, we were so focused on Zach. We were like, Zach, what is our next project? We want it to be you. Like, we just were like, just want Zach.
And we fell in love with podcasting.
And people in the industry, you're supposed to go out and network, and you're supposed to meet other people. But we just really were, like I said, focused on Zach. So sometimes when you have your mind set on one thing, you might close yourself off. But, there's the beauty of that is that other people come into your lives that are going to see you and see a different potential in you. And that is exactly what Donald saw in us, and from the very beginning, we said, okay, Root of Evil, yes, they put it in a true crime genre, but it's really about a 3 to 5 dimensional story about a family and family secrets and how we all have gone through our own story.
And everyone does.
And everyone does. And I think that was the beauty of, that story. And the thread of Root of Evil was our mother's love that carried through to everyone in our family. So when people were approaching us after that, we loved Donald, and there are still other people coming in, but it was all about salaciousness and, like, oh, you're the great granddaughters of George Hodel. And we're like, no, we're Fauna Hodel's daughters. We don't want to do anything that is just about true crime and how people get obsessed with the nitty gritty. Like, we want to tell people's stories, because that's what we've been doing our whole life. And that's what our mother was doing. She told her story, she listened to someone else, and then shared their story. So if we can do that, Facing Evil and Donald and Tenderfoot and iHeart, if we can make this all happen, and that's what happened.
And we're the first weekly show that Tenderfoot TV and iHeart. So it's kind of like apropos, right? We didn't win the award at iHeart, but then we ended up signing a 2-year deal with them for a weekly. And so with Facing Evil, yes, it is in the true crime genre, but we trick you because it's really society and culture. And we like our first two cases that we take a case and it's like a jumping off point where we have bigger conversations, right? So
Yeah.
our first one was a cold case about Lisa Au, who was a young woman who was murdered in our home state in Hawaii. And we wanted to bring awareness to her because, you know, at the time, like, you know, Gabby Petito was big in the news. And of course, you know, that was horrific. But what about the beautiful people of color who are lost every year? Or, you know, our second case was Matthew Shepard, and I am an openly gay woman, and he was an openly gay man who was murdered in a hate crime. Like, so we have these bigger and deeper conversations,
you know, in a safe place, you
Mhm.
know, as well. So
Yeah,
it's,
you know, storytelling, I think you guys were saying, you know, your mom was storyteller, you guys are storyteller. This is passed down generation, and it always has been throughout tribes, throughout
Yes.
people. You talk story, we say in Hawaii.
yeah,
Well, it's like we're talking story, but it's so important to pass these and have a place for people to tell their stories. I remember when my mom passed and you guys came over, and I hadn't told anybody, and I started to tell you, and I thought, oh, this is too harsh, this is too heavy, I can't share this with them. I can't, and I could. And the thing is we all have dark stories. And sometimes just being able to share your story for 5 minutes with somebody and have them listen and understand that maybe we all have our skeletons, we all have our pain, and we all need to be heard and seen. And so what
Yes.
you're doing is so powerful. But I wanted to ask, you're helping healing and bring awareness to all these families. Yvette, your experience with yoga and grief counseling, I'm sure that helps. And I'm sure, you know, that can help with influencing your podcast. And Rasha, you were on The Biggest Loser, and, you know, shape advocacy for beauty of any size.
Any size, all bodies are beautiful.
And LGBTQ advocacy and being activists. You know, you guys have really embodied that all into your podcast, into your mission. And I commend you guys so much. Do you think that your family's difficulty has made that genre a little bit more comfortable for you guys? Or, you know, how do you navigate that so that you don't, you know, so that you can continue to have your aloha spirit? Because, you know, entertainment world is a little crazy.
Oh, yes, we know.
Yeah.
Yep.
How do you and how do you keep it from maybe entering, you know, somebody else's really dark story going in and bothering you all night long? You know, how post-traumatic stress.
Yeah, mental health is, you know, and self-care is huge. I have to say that, you know, the aloha spirit never leaves you. It follows you wherever you go. That is so innate in our spirit. So that's always going to be there. But to your point, like for me, you know, for both Rasha and I, so when we're doing our research, we never do it after 5 at night. We don't do it on the weekends. We're very adamant about that because we don't want to go to sleep, you know, thinking about it. We really want to do it in the morning when we're fresh and, you know, your day can kind of carry on. For me, like self-care is so important in my life. Yoga was my saving grace. You know, it's been my saving grace through my life, but it was really my saving grace when I lost my mom, because yes, I have an amazing family and support system, but there was something so powerful about being able to go to a yoga class and just leave it on the mat, you know, and just weep all of that out was really powerful for me. So to continue doing yoga, running, doing marathons, there's just a release in that, to let go of the weight and the things that you can't always control and have a freedom with it to be able to breathe. So being physical is like it's like my breath of fresh air. And also really important is meditation. You know, taking that time, no matter how short it is or how long it is, but just being able to sit in that space and really consciously, with clarity, call in exactly what you want. Because let me tell you, our mother manifested everything. And with that thinking, you have to believe it. Seeing is believing. And just having that little bit of time for yourself is so important.
And I would love to say that I meditate because of my beautiful sister.
She don't.
I don't.
So-
But I will tell you, my therapist always tells me that I should, but I will say with that too, like, you know, we're not only, you know, we joke that we're a brand. Yes, we are, but we are sisters and best friends, and we're talking to each other more than we talk to our spouses, and we live with our spouses and we're in different cities. But I have definitely struggled mentally, and not because of the genre that we're in. It's so ironic with that, like, at least not at night. But I'm very open about the fact that I'm a survivor, right? I'm from things that have gone on in my life, and I'm very open. And I have needed help, and I have gone to therapy. I am in EMDR therapy. I am on medication, and I am a full-time podcaster, but I was a part-time flight attendant while we were overnight becoming famous for Root of Evil. And I had a traumatic death on board that happened 2 years ago. And so because of that, it triggered all of the trauma, generational trauma, all the things that I went through at the hands of my father and everything our family's gone through. So I had to seek help. And we're always evolving, always changing, always learning. And that's what I try to do. And part of my advocacy with body positivity and being an out lesbian is because I want others to feel that they're not so alone. And I didn't come out until I was 30 years old. I'm 44 now. I'm happily married to my beautiful wife, you know, Vanna, and we have a daughter together, Leilani, and we've been together for 14 years. And, you know, it's everything is a process. And I share a lot too. You know, I share on social media. I try to be as transparent as possible. Again, representation matters.
Yeah.
And that's why sharing stories matter.
Yes.
And I think it's, you know, I think it's important to say everybody shares in their own way.
Yes.
And that is fine as well. You know, I'm not as open as Rasha,
It's therapeutic for me.
And that is fine. I think we have to be we have to have a deeper empathy for everyone. And I think that's what is so important. And, you know, it's interesting because, you know, for so long now we've been saying, you know, how did we get into true crime? Like we're, you know, like never in a million years. But the interesting thing about it is a lot of times you think you're going to be or do something, you know, that you set out to, and then something happens in your life and it changes your trajectory of where you thought you were going. And now we're going this way, right? And with us going this way, we're learning so much more about one another and on a completely different level than we've ever known. But we're learning so much more about how resilient people really are. And that is power in itself.
Wow, that is so true. And we've all been through so much. And, you know, you guys know I'm working on a documentary about Tamara de Lempicka, and I've just watched, you know, this woman go through 2 wars and go through 2 deaths, a husband leave her and get raped, and another husband that, you know, died, and having to raise her child, all these things. And it makes me look at, and when I've met with you guys and we've had dinners and we've talked about your family, you guys are so open, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I've had my personal trauma from growing up, and I look at you guys and I look at Tamara de Lempicka's story and the people that came before us that had to keep going. And, you know, in Sudan right now, all the women that are out there in the water picking food to make sure their children still have food.
Yeah.
And it's not even food, it's water lilies, pots.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have such a resilience as women and as humans. And I really, it's been such a joy speaking with you guys. And I want to I want to open it up for questions and from the audience. And I just want to thank you so much because it's hard for a lot of people to talk about things. And when they hear somebody like you able to be so honest and upfront and so eloquent, I think it allows them to maybe feel a little bit more comfortable and know that we all have stuff and it's okay.
All have stuff.
Yeah, we all do. Amy Zen is going to read aloud any questions that we have that are in the chat.
Okay. And we're open book, so please, if there's anything you want to ask.
She's an open book.
I say we. I'll answer for her. No, I'm just kidding. That would never happen. I'm the baby sister, remember? Yeah.
Amy, do we have any questions in the chat? Or does anybody want to put their hand up and we'll just pick you?
Yeah. Actually, Megan, did you want to ask your question directly, or I can read it for you?
Sure. I'm not sure how to frame it in the best way possible, but could you talk a little bit about like how monetizing podcasts works, like how one could actually be a full-time podcaster or make
to be
money?
honest, we don't know because we signed our deal with iHeart. So iHeart and Tenderfoot, like we signed a contract for X amount of dollars, and like once the downloads come down, then we get bonuses, like things like that. But if you're like, you know what, I can suggest joining the podcast.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
So, excuse me, not even podcast movement, the Podcast Academy. So it's $100 a year. If this is something you're interested in, it's $100 a year, and you literally get all of these amazing mentors that will do everything. Yes, thank you. The Podcast Academy. And we're both members, and Donald sponsored, he's a board member. He was one of the founding members, and they, like, you can ask that question and you have instant, like, they'll tell you how to do it, where to go, what to do.
Right. And it's different than, SAG. Like SAG, you have to actually, be in a film or you have to speak, get tapped hardly, whatever it is. But this, right, you can just join, pay the membership, and you get all the knowledge that you need. So you can find out everything that you need to know.
And from what we've been told, ads are how you make money and how you monetize it, really. I mean, we just did an ad for HelloFresh last week and had HelloFresh sent to our door. But we know
it's very good.
It's so delicious. And yes, we do get paid to say that, but it is amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course. And I'm sorry, like the Podcast Academy is an amazing, amazing resource. And also Podcast Movement is a much more expensive like conference, but
right.
Podcast Academy is affordable. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Of course.
It looks like Kelly's hand is up.
Hi, so nice to meet you guys. Thank you both for being here.
Kelly.
I did live in Hawaii for a year, so I love my
Oh, you got the aloha spirit then.
I have to say that I formerly in aviation too, so I have a feeling your company bought my company a few years ago. So
well, I love Virgin. Don't even.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm sad.
I'm a San Francisco-based flight attendant. I am legacy. I joined right before the merger, so I'm their total lesbian cheerleader. Trust me, Kelly. I've tried to quit many times, and they're like, no. They love the connection. Yeah.
Aviation drags you back in. So
yeah, I feel ya.
My question was, what kind of two questions really? What kind of creative control at all did you guys get to maintain, and what were your roles on set? Were you producers? Were you just kind of there as your mom's representation, or did you have huge jobs and roles on set as well?
So for I Am the Night, Mom was actually a co-producer, but because she passed, it didn't fall to us like legally, so to speak. But Patty welcomed us to come on like from the first day of shoot. We walked through the sets. We got to see what my Black grandmother's apartment looked like, and to say, well, this would, whatever, like we were welcomed with open arms to be there and to give our opinions, but we weren't, we didn't have a title.
Our mama had that title.
Yeah, she had that title, rightfully so, and we would, that the thing about, being on the set of I Am the Night, again, in that the intros that you saw, it was so surreal because you know, our mom had worked her whole life, right? This was her dream. This was her time. And again, it was with all of us because we were so close, but it was hard, you know, because we wanted her, like if we could change it where, you know, she was still alive, like we'd rather have
We
that.
give it all back.
Give it all back, you
Yeah.
know?
But I will say, we Sam and Patty, and then so Patty directed the first 2 episodes, and then Vic Mahoney came in, and Carl Franklin ended the because it was a 6-episode limited series. We always got the scripts ahead of time. We fell in love with everything. Like everything felt right in the way that they were telling it, and we knew that Mom had given her blessing because she knew about the first episode, the pilot, but we became close to everyone. So like the costumers would ask us, like Rona Meyer, she'd be like, so what did your mom, I mean, so we were a part of everything.
Right. And like to go into the makeup room, you know, like
With
we're
Rocky
going,
Faulkner,
but
yeah.
to go in and see, you know, your mom's picture, your father's picture, the wardrobe, and then like to have, you know, the makeup artist ask us, well, you know, did your mom wear this? Is this coral something that your mom would wear, or this eyeshadow? So
Or had a freckle.
yeah,
for
so
India.
in those, you know, very tender things that only, you know, her children would know, they wanted our advice and our opinions. So it was pretty beautiful. Yeah.
And we were actually, we were only invited, not that we were initially invited for the first week of set, right? Our mom, it was written into our mom's contract that she was going to be on set for the entire time. But because Patty has become Ohana and family to us, she's like, we'd love to fly you out. We'd come for the first week. And we really never left. But it was with their blessing. They're like, you're coming back. You're coming, you come back. And you were there for so much of it. And we even got to film back home in Hawaii.
Oh, nice. And then one more. How long was the shoot?
So we started, it was November 2017 through March of 2018. And then we did reshoots the summer of 2018. And then it premiered January 2019.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I'll just let you know the order of the next few questioners. Next, we have Carol, then Diane, then Eve, and then Tammy. So Carol, your question.
Oh, okay. Well, I wrote it in the chat too, but I was wondering, how did your mom market her self-published book? Because I know a lot of people have self-published, but they don't know how to market it, and then nothing happens with it.
We did not market it.
She didn't market. There's a site. There's a website.
Outskirtspress.com.
Yeah, there you go.
She paid $795 to get it published in 2008. She wrote it in the 80s with Rick Briamonte, J.R. Briamonte. And so we did leave out the fact that when I Am the Night came out, we did actually finally get it published with the publisher in 2019. But yeah, she sold, I think, 760 copies from 2008 to when she passed in 2017. So she did not market, but trust me, she'd do her own little book signing anywhere she'd go.
When she'd come back to Hawaii, she'd do book signing, you know, or even in Oregon, she did a book signing.
She did
great at, you know.
So then how did Patty Jenkins get a hold of a copy of the book?
She didn't.
She
just met Mom.
She met Mom in person first.
Okay.
It was through a mutual friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, Patty's not friends with that person anymore. So we don't really, we don't know. A casual acquaintance with Patty and Mom were
they connected.
On a
deeper level. Patty Jenkins is a very spiritual, very deep human being, and so was our mother, and they hit it off right away.
Awesome.
That's great. Thank you.
Of course, Carol. Thank you.
Diane.
Well, first, thank you so much for joining us. And I am also of the Aloha spirit. I went to the U of H in 69, 70. So I spent
Manoa Valley.
Yay!
I
had a great time. One of the best years of my life. So it was great.
I see the Aloha, Diane. I see it.
And then my question Carol just was on the same train of thought as I was, and it was really about how, from even being introduced, your mom, to Patty, I'm sure, Patty would hear a lot of stories, hey, I've got a story for you, and, all that. So do you know what it was from Patty? What hooked her? What made her go, this is the story? Because, again, she's being pitched a lot of things even then. So what do you think it specifically was? Did your mom talk about that?
It was absolutely my mom.
Yeah. And Patty,
It was-
there's several interviews out there.
Yeah, you'll see.
to
It,
listen
it
to.
was mom's story because, mom tells her story in a way like no one else can because she lived it. She walked it. She lived it. But to hear her tell this story that you're just going, what? And this woman that just radiates kindness and positivity was such the opposite of what the story was, how there was just so much hardness and darkness and, all these things. But this woman was just like, Patty was like, I was just blown away. Like she literally, mom just knocked her off her socks, with her story. And again, I think they just, there are certain people that you meet that you connect with on a deeper level. And I think they obviously had that as well.
And I would love to say, Diane, I mean, there's several interviews that Patty, Patty and Chris were so beautiful. And when they were doing all the press for I Am the Night, they never, shied away from talking about mom and talking about, who the story was truly about. But we had the opportunity to interview Patty on Facing Evil. It's an amazing bonus episode. And we got to ask her all kinds of questions about filmmaking, about Monster, about what she saw in her mom, because she would often share that she fell in love with mom the way she fell in love with Eileen Wuornos, who was the serial killer from Monster.
Yes.
And we're like, ooh, is that a good thing? But she did. She saw the humanity in Eileen.
Yes.
With mom, she just loved her. And so it broke Patty's heart when mom passed,
and mom didn't want Patty and Sam to know that she was sick. And we finally had to.
We're like, no, that's why we arranged it was Skype. I said FaceTime, but it was a Skype, and they got to have that beautiful moment, and it was a much deeper level.
That's beautiful. And just one little last question. You're also in this phase of, it sounds like, the work that you're doing. You're also hearing about other stories of a true crime nature. Are you thinking of producing some sort of limited series on your own and kind of putting out your own shingle in that way? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Absolutely.
In the works.
In the works.
It's in the works. So do you have representation, putting all that?
We're with UTA, United Talent Agency. Yes. Yes. Literally meetings every day. She leaves for Italy on Tuesday, so it's going to be on hold for 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, but absolutely, there's just so much there. It's our mother's journey, from the time that I was a child, just tagging along, and then Rasha comes along, the journey, and then when we lost our mom, like that was the hardest thing I will ever experience in my life, like losing my mom. She was our soulmate. She just was a deep, there's just there are no words to really actually tell you how special she was. You just really had to be in her presence and meet her, and you would know. But our mother always loved the fact that, she had these two girls, that were so diverse. I mean, my hair is blowing out now, but it normally, it's curly. But the fact that, she had a blonde, blue-eyed daughter, and then a, biracial mulatto whatever you want to call me, mixed, all the mixes. And we loved each other unconditionally.
And I was obese most of my life, and Mom and Yvette, like again, body positivity, right? Like it doesn't matter what size you are beautiful. Mom raised us like, you're beautiful inside and out because you come from me, and because of the love that we share. And then, then it came out when I was 30. She's like, why do you have to put a label on it? I'm like, Mom, I'm a lesbian. She's like, can't you just love all people? I'm like, no, Mom. I'm like, I married a man on television. And she like took her a second and she's like, all right, like, and then she celebrated that. She celebrated, and so I think continuing the story is so important, because it's not just that salaciousness, and it's not even that I'm the Night was salacious, but it's, it focused on one little moment, in the story, and there's so much more, and we want to bring so much more light.
Well, and with your attitude, there are things to learn from those stories for the rest of us. Not just sit back, be entertained or freaked out or whatever it did, make you fearful. You can learn from them, and your light will let that happen. So thank you. I'm thrilled that you're going to continue at producing on your own and continuing all that. So thank you. Hello. I'll lower my hand now. Okay.
So Eve, did you have a question?
Yeah, not so much about the film business, but I'm looking at you and your sweet faces, and you're clearly a strong team, and but I'm wondering about your individual tastes and whether there are things that grab one of you more than the other that you individually sort of keep on the back burner for maybe someday.
Oh yes.
Absolutely. My love and my passion has always been in yoga and healing and energy work. So eventually one day, when we get further along with all the other things that we're doing, I would love to have a retreat, in Hawaii to just help empower people and show them tools that, make life a little less painful, so to speak, and bring joy and light and love. As silly as it may seem, our mother was always like, can we all just live happily ever after?
She wanted us all to live together.
That was truly her motto, So just continuing to bring, joy and light and love and, empathy into the world,
And I love that too. And for me, like, I've always been more open. I realized, because I've been a plus size model since 2002. Yeah, because Yvette started modeling first, and so I love being in front of the camera. And then I did some acting, and then I realized when I ended up doing The Biggest Loser, I realized that I loved just being myself and just sharing my story and talking and not having to read a character. And like Yvette is a little different in that sense, but I love just talking to people and sharing stories. And I love working with my sister so much. But it's like just for example, like last night I took Yvette and her husband with me because I grew up loving wrestling. Another clue that I should have known I was a lesbian. But sorry, we went to go see Nikki and Bree. They're now called the Garcia twins, but the Bella twins from wrestling, and they host a podcast. And I made her come with me to a live podcast.
And Gino,
and I was like geeking and fangirling out, and I'm like, we need to do a reality show like that and do that. And she's like, well, wait a second, Rasha, like what? But we had so much fun. But that's more I love stuff like that. I love celebrity, pop culture, and we want to venture out and just share stories. And that's storytelling really is what it boils down to. Even from the time I was a little girl, before we knew what a podcast was, I wanted to be a radio DJ and then a flight attendant, but then I was too big to fit in the jumpsuit. I mean, there's so much, but one thing that Nikki and Bree shared last night at the end of their live taping, they're like, you can do and be whoever you want to be, no matter what the age. Didn't have to be your childhood dream. Like, you can always just go for it and do it and be it.
And we, we have witnessed that ourselves because our mother did that, and it wasn't until she was 66 that it came out on the biggest possible, platform. She was 66, when it happened. So, and she worked her whole life. So,
And we're 44 and
55 double nickels. So, it's never too late. And I think really the heart of what Rasha and I are, we are, Fauna's daughters. I have an amazing father too. I always like kind of not,
we don't talk about my dad because he hasn't talked to me since I was out at 2009.
Yeah.
Homophobic guy. We don't like it.
But my dad is,
Her dad's great. He lives near me in Portland.
Is amazing human being. And I understand why he and my mom married, because they both have the same type of positive outlook on the world. My dad was, born in Alabama, in Selma, Alabama. And anyhow, but amazing, same vibe as my mom. But Rasha and I, we have been best friends. We have been sisters. We have been through, the worst tragedy in our life, together, losing our mom, and we had each other. And so we try to, when we talk, we try to empower people to stay close to family, reach out to your sister. And it's not always easy.
And it doesn't have to be blood. Let me tell you that right now.
Yeah. And it's,
just reach out to someone that you love,
that you care about, have that conversation. I'm always willing in our family to take the call, to listen. And I think that's what I've taught my sister, is it's so important to listen. And she's taught me that to come out of my shell and, just be myself. I've always used my voice for my friends, my family. There's always a deep-seated wisdom, but now to use your voice on a different platform is pretty powerful. So
We have 3 more questions. I just wanted to make one real quick comment, which is, as my mom's actually on the line here listening to, but
hi, Mom.
3 sisters and sisters from other fathers. And we've been through a hell of a lot too. And it is being able to bring those things out and really talk about the darkness that brings in the light and lets you carry on celebrating in the light. So thank you for sharing your stories.
You have to look for the light. Otherwise it gets way too dark and you can't see.
And the same as you, we laugh a lot through it too. Which is,
I know we get in trouble in like podcasting. They're like, why are they giggling so much? We're like, we're not giggling we're just sisters. We you have to laugh.
But that was in the very beginning too. Because there is that dynamics, your sisters, and sisters, when you talk about pain and suffering, there's a levity in your conversation that changes, so it's you're learning. We're constantly learning and evolving, because you never want anybody to think that you're being disrespectful, of their story. So
so thank you. And then we do have questions from Tammy and then Yana. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. And then Neil. So Tammy, you're on.
Yes. Hi, San Francisco Women in Film. I'm with the Los Angeles Women in Film and just happened to see this afternoon when I was cleaning up my Women in Film emails.
Do you still meet on the Paramount lot?
Pardon?
Do you still meet on the Paramount lot like they
haven't done any in-person meetings because
of
COVID.
Right. I'm like, it's nostalgia.
Yeah.
So I joined because I have to say I'm a big hiker as I'm in between all my acting jobs and stuff, and I have never listened to a better podcast. And I love crime for some reason, crime podcasts. And your podcast was produced and the story was told so brilliantly. Like at the start of every episode, how you reminded us, who George was, or whoever. You guys did such that's why I joined today. I just wanted to kind of, just tell you that it's so much better than any of the other crime podcasts I've ever listened to. Did you write out the episodes, or who produced those episodes, or how did you decide? Because it was done so well.
we talked about that earlier, on the Zoom, and that was Zach Levitt, who is with Cadence 13. And Zach is a award-winning documentarian who was with the sports world. He did 30 by 30, and he also did the Dream Team documentary as
He worked
well.
for NBA for 20 years.
But he was, from beginning to end, he wrote, directed, produced the cadence of it. He even, we even got a call from David Lynch wanted to talk to us, and we're like, David Lynch? He did our theme song because he did the music, for Root of Evil. But he just had a vision. Like he had listened to an interview that I had done with our mom for Mother's Day, and my mom had, she always worked on these what was it called?
Celebrity Sizzle Report.
Celebrity Sizzle Reports, yeah.
That probably no one listened to, but she loved to do it. She worked for Hollywood Society magazine.
Yeah, she worked for Hollywood Society magazine.
I
So
paid $0.
and she and she was Mother's Day, and she wanted me to interview her. So Zach started doing all this research on, Fauna Hodel, George Hodel, the family, the girls, and he got in touch with us, and the rest is history. He is just he's an incredible human being because, at the end of the day, Zach just wanted the family to come together, and he wanted it to be a healing space for all of us. And at that moment in time, it really was. It was, family dynamics are, it's a hard thing, but it was a beautiful moment, I think for all of us. It was so well done.
Is your
wrote it,
uncle,
but we didn't.
is your uncle, I think it would be your uncle who was
Or
the
great
detective.
Uncle Steve,
Is he still alive? And
he lives in Los Angeles, and he I believe he's working on something. He's always working on something, to get the LAPD to reopen the case, so they can actually come to the absolute conclusion that it was George Hodel. I think he would be on that mission forever.
Well, bravo! It was just done. I want the other people to ask their questions, but I just want to. It is truly the best crime podcast I've ever listened to.
Oh, thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Tammy.
Neil, I think she said you were next.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Yana.
Oh, maybe it was Yana. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yana, do you want to go?
Is Yana here? Let me see if I can.
Yana's smelling a beautiful flower.
Well, I can go then.
Telling you to go. Yeah, Yana's saying, go ahead.
Go.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, Yvette and Rasha. I just love this discussion and this panel. I haven't listened to the podcast yet, but I plan to. I just finished I Am the Night 2 nights ago, and I was I was blown away. I mean, the acting, Chris Pine, I hadn't seen him tackle that kind of role before. So
yeah,
it was the first time I realized, wow, he's an amazing actor.
You have no idea.
To see him on set was like watching a masterclass.
Never the same take.
Never the same take.
Wow. And yeah, so my question was so I read that his character was kind of an amalgamation of different people who were in your mother's life. And so how comfortable was she with the liberties that were taken with what happened? Or was it did it stick to her story other than his character?
Well, no. So the first episode, almost 100% accurate, right? Actual. And then after that, it was the mind of Sam Sheridan it's funny though, the biggest pieces were true, right? It's, yeah, pretty incredible.
It was, it was really, the first 25 years of her book, and that was the inspiration. And Sam came in with a vision, because Chris so wanted to do this movie. You know, he was the one like, got to do this movie and I want to be in it. So Sam had to figure out how to write Chris into it, you know, and his character could have been very well true, you know. I'm sure there were many people out there who had the same suspicion, you know, of George back then. But, you know, did mom know anybody like that? You know,
like one individual,
no,
but he could have been,
but
you know what I mean? Like
very well could have been.
Yeah, but we, I believe that, I mean, especially because mom, you know, read the pilot and gave her blessing. Like, I believe she would have absolutely loved it because we were so proud of everything.
We were, you know, we were incredibly proud of it. Like when I was talking about earlier about Pretty Hattie's Baby, you know, stayed with the Black side of the family, which was a beautiful film. I mean, unbelievable. And if it could come out to this day,
it would still stand.
It would be so relevant. I mean, I wish we knew where that footage was, but you know, that is a hard question to answer because, you know, mom wasn't there, you know, but she knew the direction that it was taking. But there are a lot of people that knew about Pretty Hattie's Baby. And so there are people that say, well, you know, they didn't like the ending or this or that, like, you know, her character wouldn't have killed somebody or, you know, but it was just inspired by her story, you know, her book. So it, you know, and Hollywood does that.
Yeah.
You know?
And
we didn't have, you know, control to change that narrative.
And
I don't think we would have, you know, in the way, because it's the metaphorically telling the story, you know.
Dramatization.
Yes.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Of course. And yes, keep seeing Chris in everything. He's such a beautiful soul, like so talented. Every single actor that was on I'm the Night was, but Chris is special. And Golden,
who played my grandmother, Jimmy Lee. Like when we first saw the dailies of her, I mean, I sobbed. I absolutely.
And Alfre Woodard played her in Pretty Hattie's Baby, and she was equally as amazing, but they both, you know, gave something so different and
so powerful. And that's how I got my SAG card, because I was put into Pretty Hattie's Baby. This is my mother's first independent film that I was talking about earlier. And that's how I got Taft-Hartley, because they put me in there and I was playing a character where I was actually playing my father's date, who he leaves me for my mother. But I wasn't born, so, you know, I wasn't really blaming myself.
Surreal. Okay, Yana, are you going to go ask your question? Are you there? There you are.
Hi guys, thank you so much. It's a brilliant conversation. I'm loving every second of it. Speaking of Chris Pine, I don't know if all of you guys agree. I feel like women directors direct men so much better than male directors. I swear they can bring out like the vulnerabilities that male directors cannot. So I'm like, man, there need to be more female directors directing Chris Pine.
Say that again, Yana.
Say it again.
Directors,
period. Yeah.
My question is actually more for your mom, but since she's not here, I wonder if you guys know the answer to this. Has your mom ever hesitated to tell the story like she experienced it? If she ever told you guys, like, there was a time that I went back and forth. Never.
She knew this was bigger than her. You know, when I say my mom was an angel, mom was a mystical being that was, I mean, she was beyond her time. She was a very deep spirit. She knew from the time, and, you know, people say, how did she know from when she was 8? She knew. She knew that, because if you have to imagine, if you're a little, you know, white child, blue eyes, you're in an environment in the 50s, you're being raised, you know, by your parents who you love, but they're Black, but everywhere you go, there's something being said, you're being hidden or this or that, you know, because she was given up for adoption. It was not a legal adoption. It was just, oh, here's her birth certificate. They were just trying to take her. So to be in a situation like that where you're always having to explain your situation and who you are, and carrying that birth certificate with you everywhere you go to prove who you are at 8 years old. And you know how kids are, like you absorb a lot. So when I say at 8, she knew the power that this story was going to take shape. She knew. She knew she had, it was bigger than her. And that's why she was motivated until the day she left this earth. Her story had to be told.
So did she ever mention in her autobiography that there's parts that I left out?
That's a good question. The question, what I can say about that is, there's always the mystery of who her father was. Mom never pursued finding her real father. And I think the reason, I'm not going to say I think, I know the reason she didn't pursue is because in the back of her mind, she was scared to find out if it could possibly be, her grandfather. She pursued her mother, Tamar, and found her in Hawaii, but there was a part of her that didn't want to know that, although we know that, George definitely is not Mom's father, but yeah, so there's that.
Yeah, she didn't until 2 days before she died, she would never really have that conversation. I mean, of course she would. Like if you Google her after this, you'll see her talk about it, but she doesn't she was always kind of like, I reject that, like, I don't want to, talk about that. Like, but I think, that is a piece that she left out. But a couple days before she died, she always had no filter, but I asked her, I'm like, Mom, do you think George was your dad? And she's like, I do, but that's part of our story that's coming out, right? We know now. So
but there was a lot that was left on the cutting floor and Root of Evil with DNA and all the things. So yeah,
but I wish that we would have known sooner. We only recently found out some crazy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I asked was like I was going back and forth thinking whether, like, I'm writing the screenplay based on a real story and that I experienced when I was 18 years old, and it's borderline true crime. And for a very long time, I couldn't write it. But then when I started writing it, it just started like gushing out.
Coming out of you.
Was it therapeutic for you?
At one point, I stopped writing it because I was like, how much of it is necessary to tell? Like, a huge part of me is like, all of it is necessary because you're hiding it because you're scared. And then there's another part, I'm like, do I really want to go back there? So it's just like, so I feel like whoever writes their own stories, they have limitations of how much they're telling and how much they're not. And
agreed. So, and I have to say to you, and that you have to go with your intuitive gut as you're writing and what feels right for you.
And I'm sure,
and how much you want to share.
And I'm sure your story will help others, because you'll probably realize, and I don't know, what you went through, but I'm sure others have experienced something similar. Like we always say, shoot, I'm like, we're really good normally about not talking over each other, but I'm like, but I have to tell you that, we always joke that we're related to an accused serial killer. But that doesn't define who we are. And other humans have dark skeletons in the closet. Might not be an accused serial killer, but trauma is trauma. Generational trauma is generational trauma. And I think by sharing it more, like it destigmatizes it.
Absolutely.
The more
yeah.
you talk about it.
Yeah, and I was gonna add to that. It's like in this room that we're in here right now, in the Zoom room, there's like how many people? There's 41 people.
43
or 40.
She doesn't have her
I
glasses
can't see. But we are 2 degrees, separated and connected with one another. And if we all started to tell our story, each one of us, there are crossroads every which way you go. So
Yeah.
it's helpful. But again, I go back to, for me, it's like what you have to share, what needs to come out of you, and you have to trust that. You have to trust yourself.
Mm-hmm. And as they
And I
say,
wanna read it.
truth
I
is
wanna read it, Yana.
fiction. And I feel like if I don't
Yeah.
tell the truth, then if I try to fictionalize it, it's gonna dilute the story more.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So I think you're answering your own question right there.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Yana. That's a good
Yana.
question. So you guys, I've got to say thank you for sharing your story. It's such a powerful story, and you are, there's that saying, you're only as sick as your secrets. And that is so true, I think. So I want to thank you so much for coming. That was just incredible. And I want to thank all of our members for joining us this evening, and we really appreciate all of you. And we want to give a special thanks to Yvette and to Rasha, and congratulations to both of you on all the wonderful projects and accomplishments, and to your mother for her courage and sharing her inspiring story. And, to be a creator is one of the most important, significant, yet difficult and challenging endeavors. And the world is really a better place because of your magic and your truth. And our board members and our guests, would just like to give you a really heartfelt thank you. And, for joining us this evening. And lastly, I just want to make a special announcement and a congratulations to our new Vice President, Diane Walsh. If everyone can just give her a hand of applause.
Thank you.
And I want to introduce you to our treasurer, Carol Hall. She's going to let you know about our upcoming events. And thank you all so much for coming.
Aloha.
Thanks, Julie.
Okay.
Well, next month, we'll be partnering with Women in Film US and the Jewish Film Institute and the talented director, Lisa D'Apolito, that made the amazing film Love Gilda, the beautifully told story of Saturday Night Live's Gilda Radner. It was the opening night film at the Jewish Film Festival in 2018. And so Love Gilda is distributed through CNN and Magnolia Films. Now, if you are not a member and would like to become one, please visit our website at www.wifsba.org, and I'll write that in the chat. So good night, everyone, and thank you, and drive safely home.
Good night, everybody. Yvette, have a beautiful trip to Italy and pack me in your suitcase.
Ciao,
Arrivederci.
We love you, Julie.
Everyone find us on social media and we'll follow you back. Just let us know that you're from Women in Film and we will follow you and support you in any way we can.
Yes, and all the things you do. We like to always end, facing evil with an imua, and imua to us is, how do we all move onward and upward? And to us tonight, that is really about staying connected. And like I said in the very beginning, raising each other up.
Raise it. And yes, and you're all
Yes.
powerful humans.
Aloha.
Oh, ciao, Bella.
Aloha.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Bye.
All right, aloha.